Hello and welcome back to the next lesson of our Winning with Money course. Today we are going over step 3. This is the intro lesson to step 3 of the Winning with Money process. Step 3 is all about paying off debt. This first lesson, we're just going to go over the types of debt we find ourselves in and understanding consumer versus non-consumer debt. We'll also discuss some terms, some loan terms or mortgage terms that kind of confuse us and we get lost in all the different loan and mortgage jargon. The first thing we need to know is the difference between consumer debt versus non-consumer debt. I want to start off with saying that debt is bad no matter how you categorize it. It can be consumer debt, non-consumer debt, but consumer debt is what gets us in trouble. Consumer debt is where many Americans fall and fall behind in their financial goals. So consumer debt, we're talking about higher interest, often variable interest, and most consuming of our debt. It's usually not the largest amount of our debt. That's going to be non-consumer debt, but it's going to take up the most of our time, the most of our resources, and usually what people find themselves in trouble with in the most. Consumer debt, some examples: credit cards, auto loans, personal loans, payday loans, recreational loans like recreational vehicle loans or whatever, student loans. Those are common types of consumer debt. Non-consumer debt, though still bad, is not as bad and more acceptable than consumer debt. Non-consumer debt often has lower interest rates. So that means if I take out a loan, I am paying the bank or the lender, whoever it might be, I am paying them a smaller amount of percentage each month until the term limit is done with that loan. Usually non-consumer debt is fixed. So I put variable over here, fixed over here. Fixed just means that interest rates stay the same throughout the term, no matter what, until the whole entire loan schedule is paid off. Variable means it can change. It can change for a variety of reasons. Economic factors, you missed a payment, you were late on a payment, whatever it might be. That just means it can change. Another thing with non-consumer debt is it holds the largest balance of our debt. So we're talking about home loans. That's why I said it's the largest balance, not as consuming because it's still usually non-consumer debt is pretty protected. Property loans, which is kind of the same thing as home loans, but if you have multiple properties, and business loans. These are usually fixed rate, large balance debts. So consumer debt, some important terms that we need to understand when looking at consumer debt. The first thing is understanding revolving credit. You might see this sometimes, and sometimes credit card companies or personal loan lenders, they might not show this. Revolving credit, all it means is that the credit can be changed each month. So credit cards are the best example because consumers can spend as much as their credit limit allows. So I can spend $900 this month, I can spend $700 next month. If my limit is $1,000 each month, and I can spend as much as I want up into that limit, of course. And it goes away each month. Variable versus fixed rates, I just talked about this in the previous slide here. Variable APR or annual percentage rate, that changes over time. It can change throughout months, years, whatever. And fixed rate APR interest remains the same. So revolving credit is a little bit different from installments or amortization schedules. Using a loan to purchase something with a loan payback schedule attached, such as an auto loan. So auto loans are usually not revolving credit loans because auto loans you get when you go to the dealership and you buy your car. Usually they let you go to the finance department and they walk you through the steps to pay off the loans. And they'll show you, if you get a 30-month or you get a 24-month or you get a 3-year or 5-year, whatever it might be loan, they'll show you what you need to pay each month and then you can calculate the interest you got to pay too. And then we have unsecured loans. Unsecured loans means there's no collateral. So most consumer loans are considered unsecured because they are not attached to any collateral. There's nothing of value in case you lose or don't pay your balance. So an auto loan is not an unsecured loan because if you do not pay for your car payment, then you lose your car. A repo men come and they take back your car. Credit cards, student loans, personal loans. These are generally unsecured loans, and this is why they carry such higher interest rates or APRs, because of the extra fees and everything, because there's no secured collateral. There's nothing attached to it. So usually unsecured loans, higher APRs or interest rates. Secured loans, lower interest rates. So speaking of cars, and I'm not a car salesman or a car purchasing guru, I've definitely had some flops in my own personal finance life and journey buying cars, and I've had some great buys in my journey. So comparing ways to get a car, it all depends on your life, on your personal life. Obviously, the first one here, used cars. Used cars are the most affordable way to go. I won't say the best way to go, but definitely the most affordable way to go. It's usually the cheapest option, and you have more flexibility at the purchase because you don't have to deal with a dealership or a salesperson. You are just handling it yourself. You can limit your debt obligations so that you can pay for it in cash, usually. Downsides to this, you are buying someone else's problem. So you don't know how someone else treated their vehicle before you got it. They might have changed the oil only once, or they run it down bumpy roads. They stop and go constantly at stop signs in towns. They're not really driving on the highway, which clears out the emissions and the engine system and all that. I don't know. I'm not a mechanic, but you are buying someone else's problem when you are buying a used car. You also have to do all the previewing and research. So you're not leaving it up to the experts at the car dealerships. You got to do a lot of the groundwork to make sure you're getting the right vehicle. And of course, you have to travel to that test drive. That used car doesn't work out for you, then you got to go to the next person. You got to deal with all the contacts. It can be very cumbersome. I would say go the used route for sure. Financially, it makes sense. But especially if you're a mechanic or you have many mechanical skills, or you have a good mechanic friend or family member, this is definitely the way to go. Lease, I'm not big on. Not many people are. Some people argue with me saying lease is the way to go. Again, this is your own personal life and your own personal finance journey. Good thing about lease agreements for cars, you don't need a down payment. Sometimes some places might require one, some dealerships might not. In today's economy in 2022, you might have to if you can find one, but usually you do not need a down payment. You can change cars after the term is up. So say it's kind of like a test drive. Say you do a 2-year lease or a 3-year lease, and you do not like that car. You can give it up, and then you can go to the next car. You can lease out your next car. So you can try a lot of cars. You can even do 1-year leases if you want to. Lease payments can be lower than financing payments. So if I bought used, that would be higher than lease. But again, you have to understand it's like rent. You're kind of in debt until you pay off that lease, at least for that term. Downside to leasing, it usually comes with extra fees, rent charges, taxes. There are a lot of things in a lease agreement. I've read one, and immediately when I went through the whole entire term, I decided to not go through with it just because I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand the lease agreement. I couldn't understand what I was going to buy, what I was going to get involved with, so I decided not to go with it. Lease have different terms. They have different service agreements. You are responsible for excess wear, and that can be anything from extra tire wear, suspension, whatever. You have a mile limit set on the lease, so sometimes it's like 12,000 miles for 3 years or 2 years or whatever it might be. Every dealership's different. And you may get a bad deal on buying the car, and this is what usually happens. At the end of the term, the car dealership usually does not give you that great of a deal for you to purchase outright that vehicle. It's usually their benefit, not in your benefit. New cars, obviously, new cars are in mint condition, or should be. So you're buying a brand new car. You're not buying someone else's problem here. You can online shop first and test drive at will. So you can go to different dealerships. Now they have Carvana or CarMax. They have all these different online shopping options to test out different vehicles. And of course, if you get good credit, you can get benefits at the dealership. So sometimes, like Toyota, they were running a 0.08% 3-year APR, and that's like hardly any interest, which is great. I don't know if they're doing it anymore, but several promotional offers that dealerships can offer if you have good credit. bad side to buying new, of course, you have to have a down payment. You got to have a sizable down payment, especially purchasing now in 2022. You're going to be paying over the sticker price for sure. Poor credit results in usually poor interest rates and other terms. And then just the annoying part of having to haggle with the dealerships. New car also you might run into auto add-ons, hidden fees, subscription services, whatever. So just make sure if you are buying new that you are reading through the term, all the different terms, and take your time. That's huge. Take your time. Don't let them force you to buy something that you're not fully capable of understanding yet. Student loans. Student loans is another big loan or debt pitfall that a lot of Americans fall into. Try, first of all, for everything, this goes for credit cards, personal loans, whatever, try everything possible to not get a loan. So I know that's easy for most people to say, like some people just don't have the financial capital to do a venture like going to college or to buy a car, whatever it might be. That's okay. Try everything possible to build up cash, budget out to get to your goals, to achieve your goals, whatever it means. Sometimes some people hate when people say this, but remember, you do not have to go to college. That's one way to avoid all types of mess in financial loans. You do not have to go to college. There's so many other options that we as Americans we usually take for granted. We don't truly understand because in high school, middle school and high school really, we're kind of encouraged, I wouldn't say even the word past encouraged, almost forced, or persuaded even at 16 years old to go to college. We have to go to college to find a good job. But you can find experience in real jobs and find ways to work around having to go to college. Federal versus private, some big things here. Federal is going to be more protected than private. Private student loans do not go that route. Higher APR, a little harsher term on when you graduate college, a little harsher terms to pay back. Federal is a little bit more protected. Private loans can have higher interest rates. Think about other career or school choices. Look at gig economy practices. Check out community college. Look at certifications. Certifications now are more important really than some degrees. So find experience in real jobs. See if your current employer will pay for some school. Sometimes just simply ask. Certifications can be more valuable than the time and money invested as well. Seek out other funding. Use the cash from multiple sources. So try to build up cash from your side job, whatever it might be, or gifts, financial gifts. Try to build up cash that way. And apply to all types of grants and scholarships. I read a story one time. Back when I was teaching full time, I used the story a lot to teach my students. There are stories of students, and you can look this up. There are stories of students that made it their part-time gig, their part-time job. I think one girl even made it like a 2-month, 3-month full-time job over the summer to apply for as many scholarships and grants as they could. And they got their tuition 100% covered. They applied, I think it was like thousands of different grants and scholarships throughout the nation that they applied to, and they were able to get their college paid for. That's awesome. Big thing too, around the news, we're seeing this a lot. Government payoffs for student loan debt, any other debt. Do not rely on the government. Oftentimes they don't follow through, or it's just if you waiting to put you more in a financially worse position than you were before, then you might just want to go ahead and start paying it off. Don't rely on the government. Just move on and try to achieve your goals. So mortgage loans are not consumer debt, but they are still important to target to pay off. So mortgage loan, not consumer debt. We want to aim for 15-year fixed rates. We can get that loan paid off quicker. If you must get a 30-year fix, try to refinance when you are in a better financial situation. So try to get a better 15-year fixed rate. Attempt to put 20% down. It's a good goal to build up in your budget. Add this to your budget. Try to get 20% down on your desired home. Sometimes right now, especially in 2022, buying a home seems so out of reach. Just stay strong, stick to your budget and to your financial goals, and you will get there. Research, do the homework. Find out the area you want to live and try to find the best deals. Sometimes it's as simple as going up to the neighbors and asking them, hey, does anybody want to sell? Some people, you don't know their financial situation or what's going on behind closed doors, so you might just want to ask them. pay more than the loan on the loan than the principal. So first of all, if you put a bigger down payment on, you get better loan terms like interest rates and principal, plus your credit score is important as well. And when you can begin making larger loan payments to pay the house off quicker. And this will help. Even just $50 or $100 extra a month can help. This goes for every loan, really. For every loan, always try to pay more on the principal than required to pay off the debt quicker. But if you are in debt in other categories, then you just need to focus on the minimum for the house, reroute your funds to pay off the consumer debt items first. I'll be discussing that in a later video. And lastly, make sure to always read through loan terms and obligations. If you just don't know, hire a lawyer. Get a friend to look it over you. Get a mentor to help you out. Ask your parents. Hire a freelance loan contract writer online. There's a lot of good ones out there, and you can just simply put it on Upwork or Fiverr and get somebody to look it over for you. Just make sure to know what you are doing before you get involved with any type of borrow money relationship with any type of lender. That's it for types of debt. Next lesson, we will be talking about credit cards. I'll see you then.